Okay, so let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's special interview. We are having today Bruce Coane. He's a leading immigration attorney, known for his extensive expertise in helping immigrants navigating to the U.S. immigration system. Thank you for joining us, Bruce.
Sure, happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go over and dive right in. So, Bruce, we've seen a lot of changes in immigration policy over the years, especially after Trump's first term and now after his election, his re-election. Actually, many immigrants began to seeking legal assistance in greater numbers. How did the office feel the impact of this increase in demand for immigration services?
Well, as soon as it was announced on TV and radio that he won the election, our phones started ringing off the wall, both from existing clients, potentially new clients, people wanting to find out how it affects their case. Could they get their case finished before he comes into office? So, and then this kind of mirrors what happened when he first got elected. Not immediately, but as immigration things started to change and there was talk in the media about changes in immigration, our office got super busy the last time he was in office.
Yeah, I mean, people somehow we got the fear in the air. And speaking of the fear, many immigrants are currently worried about deportation. They're worried about deportation, especially given the possible upcoming change under the new term of Trump's administration. Could you explain a little bit which groups of immigrants are at most risk for deportation under his new policy?
Well, from what I've read, I've noticed that certainly those that are out of status, those that have a final order of deportation, those people are greatly at risk. And then there'll be other groups that come after that, which would include, as expected, he says he's going to terminate all the TPS, temporary protected status programs. And once those are terminated, that'll put people out of status and that will make them subject to removal or deportation as well. So, I've also read about them going into places where they know there's a lot of people out of status, such as meatpacking plants, construction projects, places of that nature where they do these raids to try to pick up large numbers of people all at one time. So when he talks about mass deportations, obviously there's a lot of people that have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, that's really helpful to understand. And now we've seen a rise in asylum seekers over the past few years with President Trump's administration. Do you think there will be some significant changes in how asylum petitions are handled?
Yeah, because under his last administration, asylum applications were a big target and they were trying to make changes. The courts would stop it. But he's appointed so many judges that, if the case ends up in front of a judge that he appointed, we just hope that American legal system doesn't work this way, but that they might be biased in his favor. But I've been telling people that if you're eligible for asylum or you were thinking about asylum, you better file your case before he comes into office. Because it won't be very long, I predict, into his administration. It could be in the first day that he issues executive orders preventing people from filing for asylum, preventing them from getting work permits based on asylum applications, and to try to avoid problems in court, it'll most likely apply to people that filed after the date of his executive order. So as long as people get their cases filed before January 20th, they have a good chance of the case staying on track the way cases have been on track prior to his being elected as the next incoming president.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's so helpful for people that is watching us right now to understand that now is the time, right before he got into the office next year. So switching gears a bit, in President Trump's first term, we didn't see many changes to the professional extraordinary ability visa categories like EB-1A, EB-2. Do you expect any changes in these areas or in those visas in the second term?
Well, I used to agree with that theory that there were really no changes during his term, and maybe there weren't. I don't know. But I know during the Biden administration, at least in our office, we've seen a much higher rate of approval for EB-1 and EB-2 cases. So now that could be a result of some executive orders or memorandum from the Biden administration about how to view these cases, how to adjudicate these cases. And I'm sure that those memos are all going to be canceled by the Trump administration, probably within days of when they take office. And once they cancel those memos, then that creates an open door for the more difficult adjudicators to start denying all the cases again. So under Biden, with these memos, the adjudicators that tend to deny most applications, they had to toe the line and follow the rules. But once those rules are removed, then they're going to go back to where they were before. And it makes for a very subjective process where it's like rolling the dice as to whether or not you get one of these bad adjudicators that are known to deny everything, or you get, a regular officer that follows the law and will make decisions based on the law. Even so, even during the worst times of the Trump administration before, we were still seeing an approval rate of 70+% at our office on EB-1, EB-2 cases, but during the Biden administration, it's been more like 98%. So there have been very good times for people that did EB-1 and EB-2 cases during the Biden administration.
Yeah, that's why I decided to interview you guys, because you and your team are recognized as an experts in EB-1 and EB-2 this application. So it's very nice and helpful to have you here answer those questions. Are you seeing an increase in demand for this type of visas in 2024? You said yes already, but can you anticipate for 2025? Because I'm seeing, especially in the Brazilian community, bunch of people right now looking for advices and how can they apply before Trump go to the office in January. So do you see an immediate rise for this, for the number of applications right now, or how you guys are feeling and counting those numbers as well?
Yeah, so everyone's trying to get their applications filed. They're trying to do premium processing, et cetera, et cetera. There's been widespread talk within the Brazilian community about these types of cases. And unfortunately, the cases have been attracting people clearly qualified, but also people clearly unqualified because they heard, oh, everything's getting approved, let's go ahead and do this. So, I mean, if you're clearly qualified, then yeah, your case, would presumably get approved under the Biden administration if they get to it before January 20th. And then otherwise, during the Trump administration, presumably most of them will still get approved as well if they're good cases. Meaning people that are highly qualified for either the EB-1 extraordinary ability visa or the EB-2 national interest waiver visa.
Yeah, that makes sense. For immigrants who are already in the U.S., it's another very huge audience we have. What's options? What about the options they have to adjust their status? What's your advice? Where should they start? Because as you said, like people are so afraid and having this fear of this new administration. So a person that is right now looking for the options, what should this person do at the first step to get this situation regularized, or maybe get his status updated?
Well, I mean, the best thing is to see highly qualified attorneys, either doing their own research or getting a referral from friends that have had success, and presenting their case to that individual attorney so that it can be determined whether or not their there's something that they can do before changes in the law come. With a new Congress that's all Republican and a Republican president, they could pass, they can terminate all immigration laws. And maybe yes or maybe no, start some new immigration laws. But I mean, they can make all these changes because they control both houses. They control the branches of government that make the decisions on these on the laws. So they could gut all of the laws, pass new laws, pass reform laws, but basically cancel out everything. And of course, one can complain to the court system, and the sort of case that would typically win in the court system is the type where I filed my case under the old law, and you can't come in with a new law to cancel out my case that existed prior to you terminating the law. And so that's why it's really important to get your situation evaluated. And if there is something you can file, you should go ahead and file it now. And when it comes to asylum, you need to show that you're a victim of past persecution, or you have reason to believe that if you return to your home country, you're going to suffer significant persecution. And people coming from Brazil, that may not be the easiest case to make, unless they really did suffer past persecution. But in any event, if someone can articulate a good faith case that has some merit to it for asylum, then they can file asylum now while they're still able to do so. Some people are under the mistaken impression that if they've already been in the U.S. for 1 year, that they can't file for asylum. But that is not true. I had somebody in my office the other day that told me that. That's not true. You can file for asylum no matter how many years you've been here. You just need to be able to present facts as to how circumstances have changed since you got here. But you certainly can file. And again, I would urge people that are qualified, who can present a meritorious case, that they should file for asylum before Trump gets into office on January 20th.
Yeah, that's such a great advice, because there is being an explosion of immigration consultants, influencers, even YouTubers offering legal advice, and often in a violation of the law. What do you recommend for someone that is looking to verify if they are hiring a licensed attorney, even here in Florida or Texas? How can a person verify if she's hiring a licensed attorney and someone that is able to help and provide the support, the qualified support that they need?
Well, there's one thing that's a licensed attorney. It's something else if somebody's highly qualified to do immigration law, because it's such a specialty. But starting with the basics, in order to find out if somebody's even a licensed attorney, first you have to ask, what state are you licensed in? And then you can go to the website for the state bar, as it's called, for whatever state they're licensed in, to look them up. And that website for that particular state will tell you whether the person is licensed and in good standing. So in Florida, they'd go to the Florida Bar website, and they could just plug in the lawyer's name in the search bar to see if they're actually licensed. Now, there's a lot of lawyers that practice this type of law in Florida that are not licensed in Florida. They may be licensed, a lot of them are licensed in New York, for example, and that's generally okay that they're licensed in another state, because immigration law can be practiced by lawyers in all 50 states. You don't need to have 50 different licenses. It's the same law in all 50 states. So you need to find out, you need to ask the lawyer, because you may look them up and they're not licensed. You go to the Florida Bar webpage, they're not on there. So you need to ask, what state are you licensed in? And then they can look them up that way. But just because somebody's a licensed attorney doesn't mean they know anything about immigration law. And so that's why it's best to, read their background, see if they published anything. And probably the best is to talk to a friend that was happy with their immigration lawyer, because you can't beat a personal reference to somebody, that's for sure.
That's an excellent advice. For those who's watching us today, who may need to help to have the questions answered, how can they get in touch with your law firm? I mean, is there any specific channel, WhatsApp?
Yeah, so I mean, they could call the office. That number is 305-538-6800. They could go to our website, which is coane.com, COANE.com. If they prefer to speak in Brazilian Portuguese and they call our office, they could talk to Suli. Suli is a legal assistant at our office. She's been in the immigration field for over 30 years, and she comes from Brazil. And she's really great at what she does. And yeah, then just call the office or go to our website, and the website's full of information.
That is amazing. Bruce, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. And before we wrap up, is there any message you'd like to share with everyone for the Thanksgiving, since Thanksgiving is right on the corner? So would you like to spread a message?
Yeah, of course. Just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, a healthy Thanksgiving, and a safe Thanksgiving. And, it's one of our biggest holidays here in America. And anybody that has the good fortune of becoming an American citizen loves Thanksgiving. And certainly you don't even need to be an American citizen just living here in the United States. It's certainly one of the most popular holidays here. So wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us. Happy Thanksgiving, and see you next round.